reportedly making the transition to tight end in Jacksonville. But that's not the first team who wanted Tebow to switch up positions. According to one Saints reporter, Sean Payton reportedly wanted Tebow to sign with New Orleans to be a hybrid option in short yardage situations shortly after his release from the Jets in 2013. So, Shannon, should Tebow have accepted Payton's offer here?
Skip, of course he should have. But at the time, that was beneath him. His dreams, his desire was to play quarterback in the National Football League. Although that seems to be that was the only way that he was going to stay in the league, he was unwilling to do that because, Skip, there is no position that you can play that give you the praise and adulation of playing quarterback in the National Football League. You can be a starting pitcher, you can be a goalie, you can be a point guard. But if you're one of these elite level quarterbacks, it's something that hits different, Skip, because it's so important. So much is hinging on you. And Tim Tebow understood that if I play something else, I'm not going to get the adulation. I can get, hey, Skip, Travis Kelce is the premier tight end. But who they talk about? It's my homeboy. Because you catching it, but somebody got to throw it to you. So we going to get a guy that's going to throw you the ball. We going to give him the credit. But it's amazing what you be willing to do when you have no other options. Skip, my grandma used to put food out on the table for my brother and I, and we look at it like, man, I ain't eat that mess. She said, okay, you do without then. Monday go by, we eat cornflakes. Tuesday go by, cornflakes again. Wednesday, by Thursday, guess what? We eating hog maw and rice. We eating chitlins and rice. Because guess what? Those were the only options. You see what you'll do when you don't have any other options, Skip? He realized that for him to play in the National Football League, his only option was to do what? Try a hybrid position. Be a tight end, fullback, H-back, slash, get me into the NFL. This is what I'll be willing to do. Skip, before I turn it over to you, I was Prop 48, all the big schools, Texas, Nebraska, Georgia, all of them wanted Shannon Sharpe, Prop 48. Savannah State wanted me. I told my brother, Savannah State? I ain't going to Savannah State. He looked at me and said, you think Savannah State beneath you, don't you? You think you too good for Savannah State because you this big guy, All-American this, All-State that. Go to Savannah State. If you don't like it, then you can go. I've already called an Air Force recruiter. I was going to go take the test to go join the Air Force, Skip. He leaves the University of South Carolina, comes and said, nope, you're going to Savannah State for a year. If you don't like it, you can say, I tried it, I didn't like it for a year. Best decision of my life. Tim, we don't know what could have been because that's 6 years that you're never going to be able to get back. And time, Skip, they tell me all the time, time is the one thing you can never recapture. Once it's gone, it's gone. And we make the mistake of sometimes of thinking we have so much of it when you actually don't. Tim Tebow's about to be 34, Skip. So 6 years, he was out of the league. So what if he makes that transition 9 years ago, so 25 years? He says, you know what, I'll try fullback. If it doesn't work, at least I tried it. That's what I did, Skip. I tried Savannah State, loved it. We know how the story turns out. I just wish Tim would have done this 7, 8 years ago. But that's why he didn't do it. It was beneath him to play anything other than quarterback in the National Football League.
Okay, I hear you. I get it. In hindsight, 2020 hindsight, Tim Tebow should have said, yeah, thanks very much, Sean. You're way ahead of the curve. This is what I belong doing. And by the way, the role that Sean Payton described way back when to Tim Tebow is exactly the role I'm describing now that Urban Meyer will use Tim in for the Jacksonville Jaguars at age 33. And that is, Sean's vision was, we'd like to bring you in as hybrid option quarterback to run some short yardage plays for us, maybe as an H-back, sort of hybrid idea of short yardage running situations. Goal line. He
was going to be Taysom Hill before Taysom Hill.
Yes, and obviously Tim was made for that because he is a playmaker. He's an excellent decision maker, especially on ride and decide, on read option. He's very good at that. He may not be the greatest decision maker at dropping straight back in the pocket and reading 1, 2, 3 and finding the most open receiver and hitting him with the most accurate pass. But when you let him run the option, when it's 3rd and 1 or 4th and goal, that's what he does best because I keep telling you, as Urban says, he is a force of competitive nature. You've never seen anything like him because he will literally run through the brick wall to score the touchdown. So that's the guy you want, because when the stakes are the highest, when the game's on the line, Tebow will make a play for you, and he made thousands of plays for Urban, obviously starting as a freshman at the University of Florida. So I get this. Sean Payton, who's got some offensive genius about him, an outside-the-box thinker, he was way ahead of this curve. I can tell you, though, for a fact, that being rejected by the National Football League as a quarterback back in this day when this was happening tore Tebow's guts out. I've talked to him several times about it. He wouldn't go public with it because it's not what he does. But he was outraged over it because he thought he got rejected to the point of, whatever you want to call it, blackballed, whatever, because he caused media circuses. It started with his religion, just his aura, all those things that we talked about, biggest lightning rod ever. He just divides everybody, and everybody has an extremely strong opinion about Tim Tebow. And he said those opinions finally got him booted out of the National Football League after he did all he could with the few games that he started. He started 16 total games. That's the equivalent of one season in the National Football League as a quarterback. And remember, 3 of those were at the tail end of a bad year the year before, 2010, in Denver, after Josh McDaniels got fired. And he threw for 308 against the Texans in a home game and brought them all the way back, scored from 6 yards out near the buzzer to win it 24-23. Had a big comeback against San Diego in the final game of the season. And then at 1-4 the next year, they throw him into the fire, and you know the rest of the story. People get sick and tired of hearing it, but it was one of the great stories in the history of the league, what he did with that bad Broncos team to bring them back to win the division, #1 rushing attack in the NFL, and they beat the Pittsburgh Steelers in a home playoff game. It was extraordinary to me, and it was to Tim, because he was realizing his dream. And to not get a chance to start a game for the Jets, to not even be able to make the Eagles and then the Patriots, it ripped him up because he couldn't understand it. Like, what more did I need to do in Denver to showcase what I can do at this level? All he does is win. That was the name of our music video in 2011. So,
happens.
He was so torn up that Sean Payton wants me to be an H-back. Well, yeah, he's going to reject that at that point because he couldn't understand why somebody didn't want him to be a quarterback, or at least give him the chance to show them he could be a quarterback.
Skip, nobody can see the thing people keep saying is about his religion, about his religion, about his religion. Phillip Rivers is devout in his faith. Drew Brees is devout in his faith. So is Russell Wilson. The difference between the 3 guys that I mentioned is that they can play. I'm going to use the argument that everybody used when Cap got white ball, is that, Shannon, if he could play, he would have a job. So if you're going to use that argument for Cap and says if he could play, he would have a job, can't we use that? Because Phillip Rivers is very religious. Drew Brees is very religious.
Okay,
Russell Wilson...
Yeah, I got it, but time out. Do you remember Tebowing? Do you remember that in 2011?
Yeah.
Because Tim did wear it on his sleeve way more than Phillip or Drew or Russell wore it on their sleeve. He constantly mentioned Bible verses after games. He would thank his Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Again, I got no problem with it.
He needed to thank the defense.
Did. Remember when he would kneel and pray and they called it Tebowing after he'd scored a touchdown?
Yeah.
So Phillip didn't do that. Drew didn't do that.
No.
Russell doesn't do that.
But here's the thing, though, Skip. While he was thanking God, he should have been thanking the defense. He should have been thanking Matt Prater for kicking 60-yard field goals to when his time expired. But, Skip, here's the thing. At least try it. Go through it and say, you know what, man, this ain't for me. And that's what, Skip, you never know. If you give something a chance, he was unwilling to give it a chance because he, like you said, he felt it was beneath him. Give it a chance. Say, man, you know what, I tried it. They're like, but Tim, why'd you? Man, I tried it. I just couldn't bring my head around it. I tried it. That wasn't for me. My heart wasn't set in it. But now everybody's looking at it like, oh, because you couldn't play quarterback, and now this is your only option. I keep telling you, Skip, give me a guy choices, and I'll tell you what his options are. Those are his choice. H-back, tight end, hybrid. His choice is to do it now.
Okay, just to demonstrate Tebow's torment over the way he was turned away by the NFL. I interviewed Tim twice during that 2011 run, just the wildest ride of my life. But once via satellite on TV and then once face-to-face. It was after the season was over at the Super Bowl, which was then in Indianapolis.
Right.
But I didn't see him face-to-face on TV until 2014. So this is now 3 years later.
Right.
And he joined us on the show I did on ESPN. And we just talked ball. It was at the